Hello, welcome to this week's Loose Links. Join us as we keep your Tuesday night sweet with chatter and maybe a cuppa. Join us on the show. On the panel is a mother from a different father, that's Claire Browning-May. A sister from a different mister, that's Vicky Pearson.
Hi.
And the man that waves the flag loud and proud is Jason Lambert.
Hello.
Good evening. Join us this evening as we talk about that award-winning BAFTA speech from that deaf actor that gave shivers down everybody's spine. But is disability in the place it should be in the year of 2022? Also, bad boy Brendan Cole is back on our screens again on Dancing on Ice, trying to get rid of his reputation as bad boy, but his is past too much in his future. And we finish on the red arrows flying over Lincolnshire. We always get a thrill when we see them, don't we? But do we take for granted in our cities things that we have because they're already there? All that on tonight's show. Good evening, panel!
Hiya.
Good evening.
Hi. Oh, good. I'm going to try that again. That was a bit rubbish. Right, you ready? Good evening, panel!
Hiya.
Good evening.
You're all like half asleep. I know, yeah. Aye, you're right, aye. Good evening, Jason. I swear you're trying to take my job. This is 3 weeks running now. 3 weeks running.
Yep.
What the bloody hell's going on? And Claire Browning-May, we haven't seen you for a while. You've been off our screens. We're good to see you back, though. Looking very beautiful as well. Looking very beautiful. And Vicky Pearson, it's good to have you. Vicky's always the one, honestly, that studies the email like Billy O. She knows so much about what she's about to talk about. She doesn't have a bloody clue what we're talking about this evening. She really doesn't. But we'll just go with the flow. Our poll counter result person, Rachel Penny, is unfortunately not very well this week, so we don't have poll results. So we send a lot of love to Rachel and hope that she feels very better soon and see her on our screen soon. It's nothing too serious, but she's just not feeling too well at the moment. So we send a lot of love to her. So let's get on to this week's subjects then, ladies and gents, as we talk about that award-winning BAFTA speech. Did you all see the BAFTAs?
No.
There was a guy, and I can't, unfortunately, it doesn't say in the article his name. There was a guy that took an award that was deaf, and his speech was amazing. How he talked about his family and how he built himself up and how fantastic the film was and how he felt that he was giving a voice to the world of disability. But that did get me thinking. So, Vicky, do you think disability is being heard now and making a stand? And do you think we've still got a long way to go when it comes to the world of disability?
I think, yeah, we've got a massive way to go. I even think when people talk about minority groups, they often even forget about the disabled community. We're definitely, like, you know, the last in line when it comes to anything, when it comes to any improvements or rights and things. And I think there's a lot of judgment. I mean, recently I've had so much online, like anytime I mention that I've got a disability online, and I know online is a toxic place, but I mean, I've been completely attacked. I shouldn't own property. They think I should sell my house because I should owe a debt of gratitude to the state. I should sell my house and live off that money before I accept any assistance or any healthcare. I shouldn't be in relationships. I shouldn't have children. When I told people I was pregnant, I got asked The first doctor I spoke to and told, I said I was pregnant. First thing he said to me is, "Are you getting it aborted?" That was the first comment. And then I had family members who also said I shouldn't have children. People in my situation shouldn't be allowed to have children. I've had the amount of people that jump on the benefits bandwagon and just assume that I've spent my entire life on benefits with some mental health disorder that can't be proved. And just the nasty comments you get, that they don't even know me, they don't know anything about me, they don't know my situation, they don't know my life before all of this. You know, mine was an accident, it was a car accident. These things can happen to anybody, you know, and anyone could be in this group. We're one of the only minority groups that anyone could be a part of at any point in their life. And yeah, we just get completely forgotten, pushed aside. The hate, you know, I've received hate mail, a lot of hate mail in the past. I've been harassed for it. I've had people asking really indecent sexual questions, like it fascinates them. People want to push your wheelchair, people want to touch you. I mean, the funniest side of it, you know, people falling in your lap in a supermarket because they don't know where they're going, you know. And it's really hard, to be honest. It's really hard. And I think even applying for things like PIP, which is not an income related assessment, it's a disability related assessment. I have to have a filing cabinet of paperwork for every 3 years to have that assessment. And everybody has that assessment. I mean, there's varying degrees of it, but you know, there are people who have missing hands that have to have an assessment every 3 years to prove their hand hasn't grown back, which is just crazy, because that would never happen. But that's the government policy, is every 3 years you have to get every single medical note out, every doctor's note, every little record, statements from people who are in your life, statements from people who are helping you around, you know. It's a lot of work. I mean, I've probably got I don't know, about 300-400 page document I have to send off that to get it confirmed that I still have the same incurable, untreatable health condition that I had 3 years ago, you know. And with that, they could take that away, even if I have the evidence, even if I have all the letters, all the paperwork. If the wrong person gets my form, because they get bonuses for failing PIP assessments, and the more PIP assessments they fail, the higher bonus they get at work. So you end up going to court and sitting in front of 3 people you don't know, and they ask you intimate questions about things like how your bowel movements are, and things like that, like really upsetting things that cause you real mental distress. And even that's even if it's not related to your condition, you still have to talk about these things. And then they decide if you're lying or not. And it is one of the only areas in the world, in this country, I'd say, that you are proven guilty until you prove you are innocent when it comes to saying that you have a health condition. You know, they don't listen to doctors, they don't listen to care assistants, they don't listen to social services. The DWP make the decision on their own. And you know, I mean, my first PIP appeal, it failed, and it failed at mandatory reconsideration, and then they cancelled my court a hearing for 3 years. 3 years, they continually cancelled it. I had no assistance. I couldn't access things like wheelchair services. I couldn't access things like accessible car adaptations, all the things that are quite important. And I got in a lot of debt because I had to pay for these things through high interest loans and get this equipment. And then after 3 years, the day before my court appearance, they wrote to me and said, they've decided with the evidence they have that I should have been entitled all along, and cancelled my court hearing and then backdated it. They backdate you the amount you missed. All of that went on paying off loan interest, you know, for a £4,000 loan that I had to pay £8,000 back, you know, so it all went back on interest and on loans. So you don't really see it, you know, and that's not, and when I talk about that, and I've talked to disability organisations, they've said, unfortunately, like, this isn't even a news story. Like, this is happening all across the country. This isn't a one-off thing. This is consistent in the way that we're treated, you know. And I don't think people quite realise how hard it is to get PIP, because I hear people comment all the time, oh, it's just so easy, just pretend you've got some mental health disorder. You can't get PIP for mental health disorders unless you're literally attempting suicide on a weekly basis, and you've been committed to a mental health institution, and you have psychologists saying that this is seriously impacting. If you are just depressed, you do not get PIP. If you are anxious, if you have generalised anxiety, you do not get PIP. You know, if you've got things like fibromyalgia and various conditions that are variable, the majority of people do not qualify for PIP, you know. So it is really difficult to get that assistance. And it isn't everybody. I mean, the government stated quite a lot, you know, those most in need will be supported. And what that statement means is not everybody in need will be supported. That doesn't mean everyone's getting it. It means the very worst, the people who are really cannot do a lot, get the support. You know,
tonight I didn't mean to, but actually when I look at the panel now, everybody here is affected by disability in one way or another. Claire, how does that make you feel about your children going forward as they grow up?
Well, again, Harry, he's 18 this year, but when they turn 16, it's when it goes from DLA to PIP. So therefore, before that, it was me that was filling out his form. But of course, when he came to 16, yes, I helped him fill it out. But also, you should have had a face-to-face interview, which of course it was COVID. So he had a telephone call. So, you know, you've got Harry, who rarely went out anyway, on a phone to a woman who he's never met before, asking him all those questions. He was basically like a rabbit, a scared rabbit in headlights, because you know what I mean? You'd no idea really what he was going, it was a she, what she was going to say to him. And, you know, he's a 16-year-old lad. You know, he's not got a lot of confidence in himself. So, you know, it was a touch and go if he could get it, you know, and he can't physically walk unaided. But, you know, again, they had to go through the his doctors and what have you to get the proof and what have you. But as I say, it's just really difficult. You've got somebody who's talking to them who hasn't got a disability, you know, and they've probably got no idea really what they're talking about. They're just probably ticking boxes to see if you, which they do, because you have to get so many points to be qualified for the disability, you know, for the PIP. So
Claire, can I go down a bit personal lane with you? You can completely stop me at any point and go, I'm not talking about that, and that's absolutely fine. Was you given a hint in pregnancy that your boy might have a disability when born? Was you told you
no? And basically, he sort of come by not mistake, by chance. Harry suffered a lot with coughs and colds, and he had shortness of breath and that, so he was taking him in and out of hospital. So in the end, they assigned him to a paediatrician, and it would just happen to be, and I just said to him, oh, you know, when I stand Harry up, he is all like floppy. But he was my first. No one of my family had said anything to me at that stage until after he'd got diagnosed. And more conversation went on, and then he says, oh, we'll send him for an MRI, because again, when you put your legs round, he couldn't literally wrap him round you. And I should have had an appointment to get the results, say on a Friday, and this was say a Monday, and I'd gone to see the neurologist. Why I'd gone to see a neurologist again, I had no idea. But anyway, I was with this old man, like eccentric man, and he was just waffling away. I was on my own because Harry's dad was at work, and he had an assistant, and he just said, oh, yes, just go through that paperwork and give her those leaflets. And it was that nurse's face. She sort of like went, those ones? And she said, and he went, yes. And it was a form, and it says dealing with children with cerebral palsy. And I'd had no idea, because I hadn't even had a diagnosis at this stage. Do you know what I mean? So all of a sudden, I'm on my own in a room with my not quite 1-year-old to be told that he had got cerebral palsy, you know.
And how did you deal with that as a parent? Was it very hard at the beginning? Did you feel like your mental health had declined when you found out stuff about that, or what, did you just take a day at a time and take it in your stride?
It was really difficult, because as a, I don't know, for most women, they are maternal, do you know what I mean? And they just can't wait to have a family. And then, you know, you have this beautiful boy, which he still is, to be told that, you know, he has got cerebral palsy, which at the time we didn't really know anything about it, and or how it would affect him growing up. So the more and more we read into it, everything flashes through your mind. Everything from you know, them going to school, to them getting a job, to them driving, all the stages of life for him to get married, and that's, excuse, just get a bit.
No, Claire,
and it's
honestly,
really like you don't know the impact, and I've said this before. You don't know how someone is feeling or how to deal with something if you've not been in that situation. That's how I feel. You know, like I say, Harry was the only child in his primary school and actually secondary school that was a wheelchair user. Yeah. You know, so it was probably difficult for him. And like I say, you get pointed at and many people fall over you, like you say, getting kid, you know, sitting on his lap. So yeah, it's really hard. But I think you just have to take it a day at a time, because you just don't know what, and you're not just doing your feelings, you're doing his feelings as well. You're trying to cope for the both of you. And then of course, he had a sister. He didn't. I had it. He had it. 3 years apart. You know, but I wanted a sibling for him, girl or boy. You know, just so that, you know,
they've got each other. They've got each other.
Even though they are like chalk and cheese and they fight like cat and dog, but I think that's quite normal. So yeah, I just think it's difficult.
Claire, thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. Jason, what about your disability? Was you born with your disability, or did it develop later on in life?
No, I was born with it, but nobody diagnosed it until I was 17.
Okay.
I noticed something was wrong when I was 16, and went to see a doctor who said they thought it was just a tendon issue. And then I went to see a lady doctor a month later when it was no better, and she said, I don't think there's anything to do with that. She said, I'm going to send you to Sheffield Hallam to see a neurologist. She said, because I think I know what this is. And she sent me, and I walked in his door, shook his hand, and he sat me down, and he said, you have a myotonic dystrophy, from shaking his. And he knew exactly what it was straight away. And it's one of these conditions that's so rare that doctors don't understand it, because they don't know anything about it. And I still have to do 3-year assessments of PIP, even though my musculoskeletal doctor has said there is no way you will work, because it's degenerative and there is no treatment for it. And it will just make me worse and worse every year. But I still have to go. And then I have to sit down and explain my condition to the people, because they don't understand it and they don't know what it means. I tell them what it is and they just look at me. And
Jason, can you just explain to any viewers out there that don't understand it? Can you give a bit of a brief understanding of
it? It's a muscle problem. It's a muscle wasting disease. And with my hand, if I make a really tight fist, if I do that now, to release it, it takes me quite a while to release. You can see the action is really slow to release. And it does that in both hands. and mine's myotonia with the hands, and it's just affecting my walking a little bit now. My balance is a little bit off, and sometimes I do fall. But so sometimes in the cold weather is worse than the warm. In the cold weather, it's really difficult. Sometimes can't hold a pen even. But you explain this to the PIP advisors or caseworkers, and they just look at you and go, "Can you spell that for me, please?" And you fill the form in and told them exactly what you can't do. You can't grip, you can't open tins, you can't do anything like that. You can't make a fist, you can't do anything like that. Buttons are difficult. If your hands are cold, trying to do buttons on a shirt, really difficult. You can't do that. You explain all this on the form. They read the form, then they call you in and they say to you, "Can you tell us how to spell that, please?" And you're just like, "Really?" And they just don't have a clue. And I now, excuse me, I now go into the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital because I live in Norwich and actually work with third-year medical students. And what we do is that I go in and they sit at the end of the bed, they do a complete ask questions. I'm not allowed to tell them what the condition is. They have to work it out from my symptoms.
Wow, that
because
is
they're trying to train them to get
that
them.
actually, Jason, that actually leads me on to the second question, actually, and that's really good that you brought that up. Now, I've changed the second question because I was just about to, so I'm going to direct it at all three of you almost. We always talk about that we need to be more educated. We need to have more understanding and stuff like that. So I'm going to go around the whole panel, so have a bit of a think about this. Vicky, if I gave you the school curriculum and said to you, put in it what you think needs to be in it about disability and understanding of disability, what would you put in the curriculum?
I think it'd be more meeting and talking to people and listening to people's experience. It'd almost be like an assembly sort of situation. I think it's really difficult for people to understand anyway unless they're living it. I think there's no way you can translate what it's like to live with somebody that isn't living with it, or what it's like to care for somebody that isn't caring for somebody. But just having that conversation and learning that people, for instance, the amount of people when I'm in a wheelchair walk around me peering at my face to see if I have any mental illnesses, and they're fascinated. And then I give them a look because I used to play roller derby, so that can be quite scary. And then but they do it a lot. Like they peer around as if they're waiting to see if I have something quite visible that they can look at, almost like a freak show, you know. And I think talking about these things and also discussing the difference between people who are born with something and people that can have it later in life, you know, that can have accidents and have these situations through, you know, things like military or car accidents or whatever, you know, that these things can happen to anybody. And just, I don't know, more general just awareness that we're actually people and humans, and that we care and that we love and that we feel, you know, and that we're not subhuman, because I do feel subhuman in society. I do not feel a member of society. I feel it's very hard going out in public. The majority of places I can't access. There's a very few restaurants in Lincoln that I can get in with a wheelchair and also cater for dietary requirements. I think there's 2, possibly 3 that I could eat at in the whole of the city. One of them closed and has reopened, so I'm quite pleased about that. But even, you know, shops when you're going around and things have been put too close together, or, you know, various things like that. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's really, I wouldn't be a lesson like a textbook. I think you'd have to talk to people. It'd have to be real communication.
Vicky, as I spoke to, I'm going to, as I say, this show goes in different directions. Sometimes I feel like just throwing the papers over my head because it just goes in different directions.
I'm the tangent queen. So
yeah, exactly. But Vicky, I want to go down personal road with you a little bit. And again, like I said to Claire, anything that you don't want to talk about on screen, just say I don't want to speak about it. But how did you? So we've talked about disability. from Claire's point of view, from like birth, but how do you deal with disability when, because you've talked many times on the show about being big into fitness, about being at the gym, about running, about doing all of this.
Yeah.
How do you mentally cope when life suddenly takes a turn?
It pulls you apart. To be honest, it completely destroys everything who you are. It completely rips out every essence of the person that you were, and it stamps on it and it smashes it up, and it's gone. That person's completely gone. It's dead. You become somebody else. And that takes a long time, and it takes a long time to adjust to. It takes a long time. Like, ableism is really bad, and it's, you know that because when you become disabled after being so physically fit, you feel ashamed that you've moved into that group. And I, you know, and I can say that, and I know a lot of people, it might sound bad or terrible or whatever, and I mean, my first boyfriend, actually, long-term relationship, had muscular dystrophy, and he died when he was 21, and I was very close to him for many years, so I was aware and very considerate and caring towards people with disabilities, and you know, and been very involved in what that means. But then to have it yourself is really, really hard. Like there is that disconnect, you know, and you don't think it would ever happen to you. You think it's what happens to other people, you know. And I mean, for me in particular, I was never at home. I had a very high paying career. I bought myself a house when I was 27 without any support from family. I was skating internationally around Europe and the UK, playing roller derby. I played rugby in my first team at university. I used to train horses. I ran a ranch in America. I used to train Western horses over there and work with children from disadvantaged backgrounds. And, you know, I worked for a Team GB Western rider at their yard. And, you know, I was always really hyperactive. I have ADHD, so when I say hyperactive, it was pretty intense, you know. And I was never sat down. I was always doing something. If I was at home and I had a day off and I had nowhere to go, I didn't know what to do myself. So I'd go out running, or I'd go out and take my bike out, do some off-road biking, go roller skating. I wouldn't spend a day at home ever. And then to go from that, where you're bedbound, and at my worst, I was unable to feed myself and I couldn't chew food. So I had to have a liquid diet through a straw, and the doctors wouldn't come to my house. I had to go to them, but because I couldn't leave the house, I couldn't go. So I couldn't see a doctor for 2 years because they wouldn't come round to me. And I had no support. My partner had to work 2 jobs to try and finance this situation. So I was at home with like water bottles lined up on the side so that I had drinks. I couldn't feed myself, so I couldn't eat during the day because there was nobody to come and help me with that. Yeah, I was just basically sat. I was unable to watch television because it made me ill, so I had to stare at a wall. And it was a prolonged period where I was really, really sick, and really, really struggled with it. And that is a torture. I mean, it was more or less like solitary confinement, you know, in a prison. And then to be denied PIP and denied assistance with that, you know, eventually adult social services got involved and did an assessment and got me a care team. And from that, I've managed to regain a lot of my health. I've managed to improve in a lot of ways. And I think being able to eat is a big part of that. Like, if you can actually eat, then your body can function, you can hold your head up. You know, I can actually go out in a wheelchair. You know, there's a lot you can do, but when you're literally left at home with no support, no funding, no equipment, no nothing, and the doctors don't want to know because it's untreatable, you know, and they've said there's nothing we can do. You know, you need to go away and learn to live with your life and get over it and stop thinking about being ill. And I don't know how you can stop thinking about being ill when you can't do anything because you're too ill, you know. And to go from this really, you know, high flying life, high paying, you know, I had anything I wanted, more or less. I was on track for over 100 grand a year career. I was managing, you know, a big business. I was in charge of my own unit, had my own building, I had my own teams of staff. You know, to go from something like that and then have people then shouting abuse at you, saying you're a waster, you're a benefit scrounger, you're pathetic, you need to get off your arse and get a job. And it's like, I mean, I paid a lot in taxes throughout my life, you know, and I think I never claimed, I never was on the dole, I never was unemployed, you know. But as soon as you say I have a disability, that's what they think instantly, that you're just somebody on a council estate that's overweight. Because I'm overweight, because I was so muscular and so physically fit, that going from that to not being able to move, I piled on 4 stone within 6 months, you know. And then the doctors say, well, you know, the problem is you're overweight. And it's like, but I'm overweight because of what's happened.
You can't
know,
move. I'm not surprised.
But then they don't want to know. They don't want to know, you know. And it's, they're just, yeah, it was a shock, to be honest. On top of that, it's a shock at how, because I thought, well, disabled people in this country have it great. Look at all the ramps and the, you know, accessibility things you see and hear about. I'm sure there's loads of it. It's great. You know, and you have that attitude. I've had it a lot, you know, well, you could live in Africa, you could have it where there's nothing. It's like, I know, but you know, that's not the point, is it? We're in a country where we can deal with this, and we should be treating people better. We should have, you know, things more accessible. We should be able to go to cinemas or to events and days out without having to read the full accessibility and see whether it caters to you or not, you know, whether that's something you can't do, you know. But, you know, that it isn't as good as we think. You think it's better until you live that experience. And I honestly think some of these people, there needs to be somebody, I thought about it for a business once. I thought I could hire myself out where I just go around in my wheelchair in shops and just bash into stuff and tell them what isn't accessible, what is a problem. You know, the fact you can't get to half the shop, you know. I printed out some stickers. I was going to do a sticker campaign. You know, I love a good campaign. And it was "I'm not welcome here" with a picture of a wheelchair, and it was and the stickers I got developed, I never did it because I have ADHD and I can't follow through on any of my ideas. But you stick it where there's stairs or where there's inaccessibility, you stick it to the wall, and it just highlights this problem. And I was going to sell them to people in wheelchairs, so we can just go around all our cities and all our railways, just be like, "I'm not welcome."
If you do that bashing thing, that Vicky, can you take a Loose Links camera with you, just so we can put it on the Loose Links page?
Yeah, I've got a GoPro. I could stick a GoPro on my head.
Let's do it. Claire, let's go from the other side again a little bit. Like I just said about the education system, as a parent, if I gave you the curriculum and said to you, what would you put in about disability? What would be the main thing for you going forward?
Again, like I think they have come along a bit since Harry was at primary school, but again, I think it's trying to make everything inclusive, because of course all sports and everything is outside running around, you know, and you can't do that. I mean, I tried to introduce boccia at the school, and they ordered the balls, and they were like bowls balls, you know, like really heavy, totally right. Anyway, they now do it because I run it.
Do you?
I run it, yeah, on a Monday for children who are under the SEN radar, and hopefully later on in the summer we're going to do a schools competition with it. Anyway, I'll update you on that, and I'm really proud to be part of that, because as I say, it's been a long time coming. But yeah, going back to the question, it's just trying to make them feel inclusive, because it's not just like Harry's disability, you know, there are other disabilities out there, but it's just, you know, if you're in I'm not necessarily saying a mainstream school, but you've got to let them feel that they are part of that school. You know, you don't just want them. I mean, Harry, I mean, it was terrible because, I mean, when he's in primary, of course, they leave at 11. So from 4 to 11, all Harry wanted to do was play football. But he was on his knees, and the lads were great with him. Do you know what I mean? They would, Harry would be on his knees, but he used his hands as the ball, you know, to flick the ball, and he loved it. But of course, his physio weren't very happy because he was on his knees, and they do the W position with his legs, which was really bad for him. Yeah, like I say, I think he enjoyed his primary years. He hated secondary. And
then, Claire, that's lovely to hear that you're making a difference for people.
Yeah, well, hopefully, and they seem to be enjoying it. So
yeah. What about you, Jason? If I handed you the education system, what would you make sure it was in about disability?
It's got to be inclusivity, and seeing people equally, and the fact that we are not different from anybody else. Just because we have a disability, there is nothing different about us. We are still people with feelings. We are still humans with emotions.
I've worked in disabled schools and the most severe disabled schools as well within Lincoln. And I always had a dream. Obviously, I don't have thousands of pounds, but I always had a dream about an education high school and an SEN school joint together, but with separate buildings. So it's all one school. It's all one school, and there's SEN over here, and there's main education over here. But on the subjects that could be brought together, like playtime and PE and social inclusion and all of that, to join up into one place and to just normalise disability, to make it normal, because it is, and for children to grow up next to people that have disabilities, that are on wheelchairs, that are on crutches, that are missing arms and legs and all of that. And actually, it's really funny, isn't it? Because children do not notice it. Like I remember working with a child in a school, and I was like walking the children out to the parents. And this little girl, obviously can't say her name, but this little girl was describing to her mum about this new friend she had met. So, and her mum was like, well, describe her, I don't know who you mean. And she would go, well, she's got long hair, she wore a pretty print dress today, she speaks a little bit. She said everything apart from the colour of her skin, because the colour of her skin was different to hers. And I think actually we get more discriminating when we're adults than we are kids.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. You know, you see photos of two children holding hands of different colours. And, you know, race isn't, you're not born racist. No. You're taught it, you know, or you're influenced by it. So, yeah, it's awful.
That was amazing. Thank you for taking me down all three of your journeys. That was a lovely, lovely discussion. Have your say. Do you think disability is in where it needs to be in the year of 2022? Do you think government need to be taking a different stance when it comes to disability? Have your say. Remember, you are the 5th panel member out there. So come and take your hot seat and have a chat with us. Make sure you get to say what you want to say first. So,
just before you move on, Nick.
Oh yeah.
This week, the government are actually producing a green paper on how they can use schools to actually include disabled children, rather than have them in mainstream schools. There is a green paper being produced by the government later this week.
Oh, so make sure you keep your eye out for that, ladies and gents. Let's see what they say about that. But let's go on a little bit of a lighter topic now, shall we? Shall we go a bit light and fluffy as we talk about a man's reputation for punishing his Strictly dance partners to the brick because of his fierce competitiveness, causing fierce rows backstage. But Brendan Cole, 45 years old, every time I talk about Brendan Cole, every time I talk about him, Brendan Cole, 45 years old, insists this bad boy image was the reason, was Strictly Come Dancing's BBC boss's fault, who only showed one side of him for 15 years. The professional dancer signed up to a rival channel, ITV, to star in this year's Dancing on Ice series, and now has a 1 in 3 chance of taking home the trophy for this Sunday's final.
I know the answer to that.
Yeah, basically, yeah. He says the show was giving him a chance to reveal the real me. He blasts the bossy character and is forced to play by the Strictly Chiefs. So, Claire, do you think people do play up to TV, and do you believe it's the best way to make a name for yourself? When you're a bit of a bad player and a bit of a bad boy, do you think you're more talked about than the nice characters on telly?
Oh, definitely. Everybody likes, you like go to a pantomime and you always boo the baddie. And I think that's it in anything, in soaps. And they're always remembered, aren't they? Because it's very rare to remember somebody who was all nice and everything like that. You always, you'll get a name for yourself. I'm not saying any names, but there's a soap on at the moment. One of the characters, oh my gosh, I hate her. I absolutely hate her. And she's probably just a lovely woman, but she plays a brilliant part. And as I said to my mum today, I bet you she will be remembered for that. And it might be hard for her to get a different role, and like many of the actors before, go back to Dirty Den.
Yeah, Dirty Den. Who can remember Dirty Den?
I remember him when he was brought back from the dead.
Yeah.
Vicky won't remember him. She's too young.
I'm 37. I just look 27. I do. However, I don't watch TV or soaps anymore. So it's the more recent stuff. I remember the old stuff when I was younger and when I used to live with my parents and they used to watch Coronation Street and EastEnders and things. But as an adult, I'm a bit more Game of Thrones and Walking Dead than I am Coronation Street.
Walking Dead.
He's talking about the character Mina Jutler, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think though, when we go back to our younger days, if you think about it, when we were young, free and single and 18, 19, 20, let's go, Vicky, literally for you it was last year, but as we talk about 18, 19, 20, do you think we always went for a bad boy? Do you think the bad boy was always more attractive than the good, honest boy? Let's go to you first, Jason. Did you like a bit of a bad boy?
No.
You didn't?
No, I was too good.
Too good. Too good.
I was too good to get in. I was never in the cool gang to be with the bad boys.
Yeah, but I think we've been with a bad boy.
Well, I know. Well, we haven't chosen the right person, did we?
Yeah, I think we went through bad boy. What about you, Vicky? Was you always more curious on the naughty sort of bad boy sort of look?
I wasn't exactly very well behaved as a teenager. Also with the ADHD, when I got bored, I got in trouble a lot. I was very male presenting ADHD. And I had a lot going on at home, so there was a lot of so I don't know, because they were fun, but then I was fun and I like people that were fun. So I wouldn't really say it was bad, I'd say it was fun. I wouldn't go with people that were like evil. I'm chaotic good though, and only the nerds will know what that means. But you should research your alignment and about you as a person and as a nerd. We all do it and introduce ourselves that way. So yeah, I'm a bit chaotic good. I'm a good person, but I like to have a bit of fun and I like to bend the rules a little bit.
Well, Claire, I've got to say, looking at you this evening, if you walked into a bar tonight, my eyes would be turning as you walked into a bar. With your curly hair and
you after a milk.
At the bar as you get there.
That's because you told her we were filming tonight. You didn't tell me. I'm sat thinking between rehearsals in my pajamas and no makeup on, and then you've come out with something like that.
I didn't know he was filming tonight either, Vicky, but no, my hair was done because I went out with my mum, so I thought I better make it a bit. And my mum said to me, "Oh, Claire, your hair," because I've had some low lights put in it. She went, and she got it like that, and she went, "Oh, yeah, I could just cut it off and stick it on my head." No, mother. You've had long hair in your time now. You're not having it no more.
Do you think in your younger days when you were up to mischief, behind the bike sheds and all of that, was you a bit of a bad boy sort of queen?
I was, but nobody knew it. I didn't tell anybody. So
Tell us about your bad boy days, Claire. What? Well, tell us then. Tell us what was as a young girl, what was the attraction to the bad boy? What was it? What drawn you to it?
And it was just that attention, because you would go in and they'd let you in first. And then, you know, you just think, oh yeah, I'm going out with you could have been going out with half the girls, you know what I mean? But at the time when you're young, like you say, I can only just remember that because that was a long time ago. It made you feel good. But then all the bad boys try and make you feel good, but they're cheating on you anyway. So
well, I found that. Don't you find that a lot as well? And actually, I think a lot to do with it is television and film as well, isn't it? Because it's always when we talk about those mad soaps that are on telly at the moment, the bad boys are always the most attractive, aren't they? They're muscly and well dressed, and I would like bad boy I'm obsessing about at the moment is Sharon's brother off EastEnders. You know, this new guy that's just turned up out of nowhere. I
don't watch that one.
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I can't even talk about it. But even the Grey story on EastEnders, you know, the Grey story where he was violent and he was this, that, and the other. But he's a good-looking bloke, isn't he?
I'll have to look tomorrow.
He's a good-looking bloke. He is. Vicky,
I thought Mac was a good-looking bloke.
Say again.
In Emmerdale, I thought Mac was a good-looking bloke. He was a bit of a bad boy, wasn't he?
Hey, you're all going to cringe at my absolutely. Claire knows it, don't you?
Kane.
No, not Kane. You're going to cringe at mine.
Not Sam.
No, right. EastEnders. That's your first guess.
Oh, EastEnders, right.
Charity.
EastEnders. Who do you think my guilty pleasure is? You don't know, do you? Right, you're all going to be shocked at this because everybody goes, yeah, how can you fancy Max Brannan?
I don't know who any of these people are.
Max Brannan! Any day, any time, anywhere, anyhow.
Naughty. He was a bad boy.
Yeah.
Because didn't he get, what's the name, pregnant?
And he killed a couple of people as well, didn't he? He killed
Stacey. He got Stacey, because that came out, didn't it?
He got Stacey pregnant.
I did watch it many moons ago.
Honestly, the amount of times I've Google searched his name was unreal. It's just my guilty pleasure. He really is. But Vicky, do you think we still live in a world where when you know, like when we're brought up for mistakes and stuff like that, do you think it's so much easier for people to just pass on responsibility? So instead of taking responsibility for ourselves, we're still in a world where even as adults and as kids and as all of that, we are looking that it's not my fault, and we're passing on responsibility when it comes to relationships, when it comes to living, when it comes to, do you think we're still in a very much of a world like that?
I don't know. I think it's difficult because I'm in a really lovely group of people at the minute, and I've really met like a lot of people that I really connect quite deeply with. And I guess, I mean, a lot of people probably say we're a little bit hippie-ish and a bit odd, you know, and I'm a bit odd, and that's great. And you know, and I really love those people. And we talk a lot about our mental health. We have a monthly women's meeting that I go to, and we talk about our mental health, and we talk about a lot of things, and I don't know, developing a lot of ownership on ourselves, and owning, even if things and patterns of behavior in the past were not really our fault, they weren't something we were aware we were doing, you know, taking ownership of that, being aware. I mean, I'm a big advocate for mental health, and the fact that, you know, although mental health may cause you to behave and act in certain ways, that doesn't mean you should be free from consequences, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be, you know, called out for certain behaviours. There needs to be allowances made, or maybe, you know, you need to take ownership, and if you are, you know, really struggling and it is affecting other people around you, you should seek out counselling support to stop that, because it's not other people's problem. But that's just my view and the people that I surround myself with. However, I know a lot of people that do not follow that, more people, which is why I'm not a great person with the general public, you know, because I do see there's a lot of selfishness in the world, and I find it quite difficult because that's not who I am as a person, and what I like in people, you know. And I do think people should take more ownership of their own actions and their own behaviours, you know, and be more aware of how you impact the people around you. But I don't know if that will change. I don't know. I mean, a lot of younger people seem to be more aware of it. They seem to be speaking out a lot, and a lot of older people find that really difficult. Certain generations above me, I find it very difficult to, you know, I mean, there's that whole war, isn't there? The millennials and the boomers at the minute, and the TikTok and all the
I've
videos.
not heard of that, the boomers.
Where have you been?
I've not heard of the boomers.
Boomers and millennials are fighting, and the boomers think millennials are all children, and some of us were born in 1980, which makes us 40 odd, you know, so it's not really children. And then, you know, the Gen Xers are just completely left alone, and they quite like that, so they don't get brought into the fight, you know. The young ones are all called millennials, and they're not, you know. And it's this, I don't know, I find it quite funny.
Funny you should say that, Vicky, actually, because I did a bit of research before the show, and I found out the years people were born. Claire was born in 1944.
See, this is where I want to install a kicker leg under your desk and you don't know, and I just press a button. Usually when Rachel's on, you get a good kick in the shin.
He wants that chair that's on Graham Norton.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
But Claire, do you think we pass on responsibility more when we are hurt? So when we are hurt by somebody, do you think we automatically go into? What I'm trying to say is, when I've been hurt in the past by, let's go down relationship mode here, because that's the best one to go for me. When I've been hurt in the past, I very much at the beginning, it's their fault, it's them, that they've done it, I can't believe you've done this to me. And I'm not saying now I'm a human being that thinks, actually, part of that was my fault. But when I reflect more, when I move away from the pain and the hurt and actually be able to reflect a little bit more, I've noticed there's been change in me, as there's maybe been how I felt about that person. But do you think we need to pass the pain and the hurt before we start reflecting on ourselves?
Well, I think like what you've just said, because when you're hurt, you want to blame somebody. I think personally, that's what I think. You want to blame. It makes it easier for you if you blame somebody. So like you say in a relationship, it was their fault, because if you put the emphasis then on you, you'll feel even totally worse than what you felt before. So I think to process it how you want to process it, as in blame them, yeah, want me. And then as you heal, as they say, you know, and you can reflect then on what you could have done differently or what went wrong. But at the time when you're going through that pain, you want to blame somebody because, you know, why are you in this? You couldn't have done this because you're the one that's hurting. That's how I personally look at it anyway.
Someone once said to me, and I thought it was a load of cobblers when we first had it, but as I've got older, it makes a little bit more sense. Life's a bit like a train journey. So you go to a platform, you get on a train, and you go to the next destination. Where you in this next destination, you meet new people, you build relationships, you this, that, and the other. But as you get back on the train to go to the next destination in life, sometimes you have to leave some people and some feelings in the last station for you to move forward. Does that make sense? That it's almost like leaving your past behind. And I also see it as shredding skins sometimes, you know, where we just shred ourselves and we just think, actually, because I think if my last real partner walked in my life now, A, because I know what he's really like, I wouldn't find him attractive anymore. But two, I don't think even if I met him now we would fit, because I'm a completely different person than I was in 2019. And it just happens and grows, doesn't it? But do you think when somebody takes on a bad character, Jason, do you think that bad character stays with them for life, and they can't really escape it.
Yeah. I think it's very hard for them to. I mean, in a TV show, obviously, if they play for so long, then you just remember them for that, whatever else they do. In real life, if somebody is bad and very bad, it does kind of go with them, and you just wonder. I mean, they say a leopard never changes its spots. Well, some people do, some people don't. I mean, we both know somebody who's never changed their spots.
Yeah.
But
you say that, like, let me just butt in. You say, but what if you did see him again, Nick, and you know he said, can we have a talk, you know, and he sat you down and he said, you know, I really am sorry for the past and I really want you and all that. Would
no,
you?
the problem is, when I would never name him. I'd never name him. I would never do that. But when we first split, I was absolutely desperate to see him in the street and to just say hello and just have that conversation. And we even tried being friends afterwards. And we tried meeting up for coffee in town and stuff like that. But it was just lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. Even when we weren't together, he carried on lying. He made that choice to carry on lying. Now, because we haven't, we're in March of 2022 now. I think the last time I properly spoke to him was midway through 2021. And if I saw, I was saying to Jason earlier, actually, if I saw him in the street tomorrow, he has no reason to come back to Lincoln. I don't believe he'll ever come back to Lincoln. But if he did, if I saw him in the street tomorrow, I would say hello. I would walk past it. I wouldn't ignore him. I would cross the road. I would say hello. But if he asked me, how are you doing? How's life? I'd be like, can you just stop being fake? I'm quite happy to say hi. I'm quite happy to wave and acknowledge you, but actually, I don't really want you knowing anything about my life, even though I spread it on the internet every week. I don't really want you knowing anything about my life, and I'm not really interested in yours. So I'm quite happy to like say hi, but that would be it for me. That would be hi.
It's the same person that Nick and I talk about.
Yeah.
We're both with the same person. Yeah, I do have conversations with them quite often, and managed to remain friends. And even though Nick's always like, I don't know how you can do it.
No, I don't know. I just like, even now when I think about him, I just cold shiver. Just cold shiver, horrible. But move on. Talking about Bad Boy, do you enjoy Bad Boy? Was you always attracted to a bad boy, or was you kind and sweet? Let us know. Make sure you have your say in the discussion. You are the fifth panel member out there. That moves us on to our final topic of the evening. The Red Arrows have been put out enjoying the spring sunshine over RAS Scampton on Friday, practicing moves and dusting off some post-season cobwebs ahead of their busy summer schedule. Preparations are well and truly underway for Royal Air Force and the team as they get ready to start their 2022 season after they recently announced of the Red Arrows 50-date UK summer schedule. Wow. But Vicky, do you think we sometimes forget how lucky we are within our own towns because we live there? So pure example for you would be Lincoln Cathedral. Do you think that we take big iconic buildings that people come from miles and miles to see for granted because it's there every day in front of us?
I don't think so. I think Lincoln people love the cathedral and we have like a real deep love for it. When I talk to people who aren't from around here, it's, you know, and you end up getting on quite well with them. I'll send them pictures of the cathedral, you know, and the Bale Gate, and not as an intro, you know, conversation. But like, you know, when you've been talking for a few months or something, and you're like, you know, oh, everyone in Lincoln loves the cathedral, you know, Red Arrows Cathedral, the castle, the Bailgate, the shop, Steep Hill. I don't know, I really love it. And as somebody who's lived in a few places, I've always felt the same. Like when I lived in Hull, seeing the Hull Bridge made me feel really warm and like, oh, I'm coming home. And I loved the Hull Bridge and seeing that, and you know, it was lovely. And the cathedral, I feel the same. Like when you're driving up towards Lincoln, and you see it from miles away, and it's lovely. It's really nice. I enjoy that moment of, you know,
I've just got this picture now of you when you started to talk to someone and they go, oh, can you send me a picture? And you send them a picture of Lincoln Cathedral.
I could troll instead of dick pics. I said, I loved it. Can I just say, when the Lincolnite was calling her Kathy and everyone was up in arms, I thought that was the best thing. Like, I love it. I love it. How defensive people got, and some people loved it and some people hated it, you know. But even the little things, like I live out in a little village on the Fens, and I'm not from the Fens. Just clarify. It's got a reputation, the Fens. But I love, like, outside my window is just fields and the lime woods, and I genuinely wake up every morning and enjoy that view and appreciate it. I don't know, again, if that's a disability thing, like there's not a lot to find joy in. But you start to like, oh, the sun's out, that's a good day. You know, so you do see the little things, I think, a bit more. And you do appreciate them, you know. And I do think there's a lot of pride in Lincolnshire. It's one thing I think is very prideful of our county. And even, like, I mean, I only moved here in 2007 for university, but you know, I really love it and I feel proud of our county. And I love the countryside. I love the Lincolnshire Wolds. I love the coastline a little bit. Sometimes I don't like Skegness a bit, but you know, I mean, right, isn't it?
Oh, it's the people in Skeggy. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm a bit more of a fan of a good cliff and a bit of waves. That is what I mean. I'm a bit more of a Whitby fan than a Sandy Beach. So it's nothing personal, but you know, I love our county and I love a lot of the people in it, not all, but you know.
Claire, have you had a moment in Lincolnshire where you've gone, wow, I'm proud to be in this county, I'm proud to be a Lincolnite?
Well, my mum used to live in Waddington, and for me, when I used to go over to see her, she had a little dog, a little Westie called Muffin.
Oh,
Muffin, because you know, like ladies used to have one of them muffs that you put your hands in. Muffin. So you call taking it for a walk and Muffin. Yeah, well, anyway, I wouldn't say like a wow moment, but like I say, I'm not quite sure. But Waddington, I used to go up this hill and the views were just absolutely, you know, and you could see Lincoln and it was just a wow moment. Do you know what I mean? And it was just, you know, it's free. You just go and take the dog. I used to go hours and then come back down and walk through the streets and that, and it was lovely. But I think Lincoln itself is a lovely place. You know, it's got, I mean, I was born in Newark. And I think that's deteriorating. The market town used to be thriving, you know, beautiful. It's got the old cobbles and all that, but the prices of things. So half the shops are empty, the market stores, there's not many there. You know, people do come to Newark because it is an historical town, but it's to see the castle, and that's really all there is. I mean, like I said, there's hardly any shops anymore. You know, whereas you go to Lincoln and, you know, for the youngsters as well, I think it's, I mean, I haven't been out there in a while, but a good night out, you know, you've got the history of that as well. The shops are brilliant, you know, the university. Me and Harry was there a couple of weeks ago playing wheelchair basketball. I had no idea where we were going. The sat-nav says you're at your destination in the middle of this car park. And I went, well, where we go? You know, it's like this great big thing. And luckily it was a bloke with a clipboard. So, as you know,
I had a bit of that. I had a bit of that. wow moment today. I felt a bit poorly all day today. I went to church this morning, went back to bed this afternoon, slept a couple of hours, lounged around in my lounge gear, and I just didn't feel very well at all. And I've recently, payday's recently happened, so I was going round to the local supermarket. It always astounds me, always blows me away. But like I walked out my drive and I was walking down and I had my head like down, and you know when you're just feeling rubbish about yourself. And this guy just said, "Hi," and I looked up and was like, "Hello." And I walked past and he said, "You're Loose Links presenter, aren't you?" And I went, "Yes, I am. Yes, I am." He went, "Keep going, it's an amazing show. I enjoy it." So that was a proud moment for me. So if you do see us out and about, please stop us in the street and say hello to us, because it's a really, really proud moment if you can stop us and say hi. That'd be great to have you. Ladies and gents, that brings us to the end of the show. How fast does that hour go? Honestly, it zooms by. Will you thank my panel for this evening? The man that's never afraid to speak out and say what he thinks, that's Jason Lambert. The girl that has an incredible story and an inspirational woman for the year of 2022, that's Vicky Pearson. And she's like a fine red wine. She gets more mature and beautiful with age. That's Claire Brown and May. Join us next week for a lot more loose fun, and make sure you keep us entertained with your Tuesday nights. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.